Hey, Jerry, last week we talked about coaching, but we didn't really talk about the difference between coaching and counseling.
I think we did talk about it some, but this week we really get into it.
So we get on the down and dirty on the difference between counseling and coaching and some of our personal counseling experiences with Kim Avery, who's a certified professional coach and also a trainer over at the Professional Christian Coaching Institute. She really has some great...
As well as a really fun person.
She is a really fun person. She laughs a lot and tells great stories. So we invite you to listen to the difference between counseling and coaching, especially if you've had a bad counseling experience.
Real life for real families. Hurts, habits, and hang-ups happen in every family.
Jerry and I are here with tools to help you trust God, clean house, and tell the truth to ramp up the joy in your family.
You have what it takes.
It's time to become sober on purpose for His purpose. Hello, joyous friends. This is Tanya. Cue Jerry.
Oh, and this is Jerry. It's weird not
Jerry's
being in the same room.
Yeah, Jerry is on the road today, so we're going to improve his sound quality as much as we can. And today we have invited Kim Avery to speak with us. She is a professional certified life coach. She is also a professional trainer with the Professional Christian Coaching Institute, and that's the place that I'm currently taking my classes. She was also a former counselor. She still is a certified counselor, but no longer practicing. And we have invited her here to talk about the difference between coaching and counseling, because sometimes that's really confusing on how that's happening. So welcome, Kim. Do you have anything to add to that introduction?
No, I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you and your husband and all your listeners better.
Thanks. We really appreciate your time today. And so both Jerry and I have done coaching and counseling. We've had both positive and negative experiences with that. So could you share with us just some basic definitions between coaching and counseling? What is the difference?
And so I'm a picture person. And so I like to think of counseling almost as the rear view window in your car going down the road. Sometimes we hit bumps and obstacles, and it's because we need to go back and look at what has happened in our past. There are things that are pitfalls, that lots of hurt, lots of woundedness, difficulties, mental illness, things that need to be resolved before people can really look through the windshield of life and go in a straight line to get to where they want to go. So when people come into counseling, it's a lot of resolving and healing the brokenness that living in this world can bring. Once they have achieved that as a counselor, typically we say, it's been great knowing you, the insurance stops paying for it, and wish them well on their merry way. But as you all well know, that doesn't necessarily equip you. There's no one to partner with you. But I'm not where I wanted to go. I'm glad I'm over the hurt or the woundedness or whatever was getting my way, but I'm still not where I want to be. And so that's where coaching comes in.
And that, Jerry, that was kind of our experience. We've shared that once before with our counselor, right?
Yeah, and what a great way to articulate that. That was perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself.
So what we've shared before, you want to tell them what we've shared before about our counseling experience with, we had a Christian counselor, we really liked him. And then what did he say when we came back for like the last time?
Yeah, he said, well, I think we're done here because I've given you everything that I can give you. You know all the tools, and now you just need to go employ them. And he pretty much fired us.
And we both walked out of there. I think we both had the feeling of a dumb look on our face of, okay, we understand we worked with you for over 12 months and we've gotten a lot of things worked out, but how do we actually do our daily lives?
Yeah, and we didn't know, or at least I didn't know about coaching at that time. I'm done, Kim. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. And it's not just going from counseling into coaching. It's, I think, a Western mindset that we have, that insight and knowledge is the same as implementation and activation. This is why we have so many education campaigns on unprotected sex for teenagers or drinking and driving for people. And research has shown those rarely move the needle on people's behavior. And so society, not knowing what else to do, often just doubles down. Well, we need to educate them, in a more vivid way. We need to educate them more frequently. When you think about people trying to institute change, we need to give them more knowledge and, give them more and greater insight. But I have insight on a lot of things in my life, but I've yet to implement those insights into actionable, repeatable change. And so I think it's a unique role that coaches can fill that has long been lacking in society. Someone to partner with you to not just know new things, but to actually do different things. And when we do different things, we actually get different results.
That's really what we needed, right, Jerry, was different results. Where would you have taken, so you heard our story of leaving our counselor. We had worked on a lot of stuff. As a coach, if we came to see you for the first session, what were some questions you would have asked us? Where would you have taken us?
Yeah, so this is so fun. So as a coach, I had to learn to listen for entirely different things. As a counselor, I was listening for the pain and the problems and the brokenness. When I went into coach training, I thought, hey, I'm a trained listener. I've got this course aced, right, Tanya? Mm-hmm. But I had to listen for different things. Now I'm listening for the possibilities, the strengths, the vision, the values. So sitting down with the two of you, it's, where do you want to be 5, 10 years from now? What strengths has God woven into you to help you and equip you along this journey? What values do you want to honor? What do you want to celebrate when you get there? What is the joy in this journey along the way and in arriving there? And so it's such a hopeful, empowering way to work with people. I actually love coaching, if you can't tell.
I think we came out of our therapy session still a little shell-shocked and possibly dreamless. Is that kind of a reading you had, Jerry?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. I just wasn't sure where to go from there. Like, all right, well, we have the tools for sure. We have the knowledge, but how do we implement it?
And that's what I'm learning in coaching, is that's where the coaching would come along. And there's an important piece that I think, Kim, you haven't talked about, is this is all about our decisions. That we are the experts.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. As a counselor, I was supposedly the expert in the room, an expert on mental illness, an expert on brokenness, an expert on techniques to help people change. And in all honesty, sometimes that worked out well for people and sometimes not. Because the reality is we're each an expert on our own lives. Nobody knows us like we knows ourselves. And so coaching allows me as a coach and you as a coach, Tanya, to honor people's expertise. Let me give a quick example. Have you ever gone to a church event or a cocktail party and you've explained maybe, I'm having difficulty with my child, or I'm having difficulty losing weight. And somebody said, oh, well, if you just did A, B, and C, it worked for me. It'd be great. You'd be all better. And you're thinking, okay, they've known me for 2 minutes. They've heard about my problem for 30 seconds. They prescribed the solution and made me feel small if I haven't already implemented it successfully in my life. And we instinctively know, wait a minute, if it were that easy, it still wouldn't be a problem. You don't know this and this and this about me or about my situation or about things that I've tried in the past. Nobody knows that better than I know that myself, or you all know that. And so a coach is willing to listen and draw out those things. Tanya, you said you were dreamless. Jerry, you said you weren't sure where you wanted to go, because why would you? You were just trying to get to this point. That was your dream, but now you're here and you don't have new dreams. But it's not that you really didn't know it. It's that nobody had given you the space, the freedom, the non-judgmental zone to say, yeah, but late at night, what have you always wondered? Or when you're praying, is there something God's been whispering that you've just been afraid to even say out loud to yourself? So when you really have a safe place to explore what God is leading you to do and the strengths he wants to use to help you get there. And so coaching honors that expertise that everyone brings to the table.
Okay, Jerry, can we hire her now? Are you ready?
Yeah. What are the rates?
He's always concerned about the money. I think that's been so important for me. And Jerry had kind of a rough experience. Do you want to share a little bit about your counseling experience after all this happened and how frustrating that was?
Yeah. Why don't you give a little lead in, but I'm happy to share.
So we're talking about you were court ordered to go to counseling, and a lot of the things that Kim expressed happen in coaching were things that her example of poor giving advice happened to you in court mandated counseling.
Yeah. So I chose to plead guilty to a crime of misdemeanor domestic violence from an incident at the end of my drinking and drugging career. And it was a calculated choice. The risks on facing a jury or just a judge's decision were just too high to take into account. So I took an offer for a deferred sentence, and part of the offer was court mandated group counseling and individual therapy, as well as an assessment and a number of other things. But what happens is you end up getting farmed out to a counselor that's in cahoots with the court system and kind of has a steady supply of new clients. And you sign an agreement that says that anything you say can be turned over to the judge and your probation officer. From my experience with counseling, which was limited at the time, but it was anything but productive. I mean, how can you really seek recovery or even vulnerability or emotional clarity if everything you're saying, you have to calculate whether or not this can be used against you. But at the same time, you absolutely know that you have to go through this, or you have a guilty plea on the record, and the consequences to even a misdemeanor domestic violence are very, very big. That was one of the hoops. There was a number of hoops, but along the way, I mean, I was becoming hyper aware of the reality that I was building a tremendous resentment against the process and against my therapist. And my therapist was everything you would expect from a court mandated therapist. They were always calculating and consistently trying to leverage their position, and certainly was able to get me to have to fork over more money for more sessions and different targeted sessions, even with as calculated as I was being, trying to avoid those things from happening. It was a horrible experience, actually. And in the end, what I got from it was really just a way for the system, the court system that is, and the therapist to kind of sign off and check the boxes and say, okay, this, we've done the required stuff, and this person is fit to re-enter society.
Well, and that was not our private personal counseling, which was very different. But that would make anybody, I think, want to run from a counseling situation, whereas coaching is so much different from that idea.
Well, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, this was anything but a coach. This was kind of a tribunal that wanted you to become a productive member of society again, but in the same respect, wanted to be able to, say, well, our due diligence is there, and we have, made sure that this person fit that, check that box and check that box, and anything else that happens going forward, we're no longer responsible. Like very much like Pontius Pilate washing his hands of the matter, However, the damage is done.
So what would you say to somebody who has experienced that and says, I never want to be anywhere near anybody who says anything about coaching or counseling or anything? Because we've experienced good counselors and good coaches too.
I just wanted to start by thanking you for your honesty and vulnerability here, Jerry. I really appreciate that. And I hope your listeners appreciate it as well, because this is real life and we're not going to make real changes unless we face what is reality. Is that right? Reality is always our friend, whether we're counseling or coaching. But here's another reality. Counselors, coaches, mechanics, and airline pilots, they come in all shapes and sizes and all degrees of qualification and buy-in, and really being invested in their clients' growth and change. I will say that one time as a counselor, I signed up. They needed somebody to do a gig for court-mandated parenting counseling for offenders who had abused their children. I knew nothing about that particular population. They handed me some canned program and I went and taught it. And I went in the room and people's arms were crossed and scowls on their face because they didn't want to be there. Instantly, when I walked in the room, I did not want to be there. I was serving my time, and it was a program. I had no idea what their unique situation was, what their challenges were, what their family dynamics were like, what their children were like, what their parenting goals were. I was just delivering the script, as you said, Jerry, to check the boxes. And I never signed up to do it again. And we all know that when we're forced to do something, and we can understand why judges do it, but when we're forced to do something, we instinctively do not like it. Right? If you've ever had a 2-year-old and you said, do not cross this invisible line in the car where your sibling is sitting on the other side of the car, we all know what immediately happens. Both siblings immediately butt up against each other on that invisible line, and somebody will stick their pinky over the line, right? Until Mr. Hand from the front seat goes back to correct the situation. But this is how we all feel about being forced to do something. And so counseling, when it's voluntary, can be effective, but there's good and bad counselors. There just are. And when it's mandated, hopefully sometimes is effective, but it's a tough setup for anybody, for both people in the room, I think. Coaching should never be mandated. And it's always 100% not only voluntary, but people have enough buy-in that they're investing their money. Whatever your coach charges, it's good for you as a client to pay, and to pay just enough so that it's a little bit of a stretch, so that you'll take it seriously, so that you will be accountable, so that you'll show up and do the work, but you could quit at any time. And so you're in there loving the work, taking advantage of the opportunity and enjoying the process. And so is your coach. And so it's a win-win on both sides.
I just wanted to close by saying that experience was not all negative. Like in any challenging situation that you come out the other side, there were definitely some benefits. This counselor was very good at what they did, and a very sharp person, and had a moral code. And watching her struggle with trying to make sense of her moral code and with what she was doing helped me to really formulate a lot of the positions that I have now going forward. And if not for that experience, I probably wasn't going to be able to solidify where I stand on a strict moral basis and on a strict sociological basis too, which is strictly nonviolence and strictly voluntarism on every aspect without making any bones, which really makes me very unpopular at a dinner party. So that's all. But it has given me such a peace in my heart because I know exactly where I stand. And it doesn't mean that everybody needs to stand there. It just means that I know exactly where I stand on every issue. And I can't tell you the peace that has come from that. Yeah. The price was high, but the benefit was great.
And it was even difficult for me from the outside that this was such a forced measure and I couldn't participate in it at all. He didn't have any choices. And that's where I see coaching as such an availability of a person gets to make a choice, even if they enter, if they don't enter, who they choose, what happens, all those types of things. So I'm kind of going to twist it just a little bit. Where would you see choosing, and how would you choose a coach? And Kim, I'm going to throw that at you. I'm just leaving it open. How would you pick your coach?
Well, the reality of coaching is that right now, legally, it's a completely unregulated field. And so anybody can, and some do, call themselves a coach. So there's nothing illegal or even really unethical about it, but it does leave our clients in a buyer beware type of situation. You do want to be careful to make sure you're choosing a coach who is the best fit. And one determination of best fit, I feel like, is training and qualifications. Much like we send our students to school when they're in school, it doesn't mean they remember everything from their 6th grade history teacher, but it does mean they were willing to show up, they were willing to do the work, and they caught the gist of what they were doing. One of the things I like about coach training from the International Coach Federation, the ICF's point of view, which is the training school I'm associated with, we abide by their standards, is that it mandates live training. In other words, people will hear you coach. They will give you feedback as you coach. They will correct you as you coach. And I often think, would I really want to go to a surgeon who had taken his course through the mail and had never done a lab course?
Mm-hmm.
No, not really.
Mm-hmm.
I would wanted him to practice on first dead patients, but then real patients and gotten feedback on his skills. And so when you hire a trained, certified, qualified coach, you know you're not just getting someone who read a book, but somebody mentored and said, this is effective. You're not wasting anybody's time or money. You're really helping pull out what's most important in people by doing this thing and this thing and this thing, and maybe a little bit less of that thing, whatever that is. So I would hire someone who is educated, qualified, trained, certified, those types of things under the ICF standards. Other than that, I'm a big believer in just resonance, somebody who gets you. This is why I like, Tanya, I know that you and Jerry offer a free inquiry call for people who are going to work with you. I wouldn't want to hire somebody who I was spending that much personal time with without really getting to know them and hearing their heart and feeling how they responded to me when I shared my heart. And so I would definitely work with a coach who is willing to give me that free inquiry call, answer any of my questions, hard, easy, whatever they were. And I felt honored and valued as a person when I walked away.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I did sign up for the Professional Christian Coaching Institute, was listening to you and Chris. I must have listened to you guys for 6 months on your podcast, kind of went, okay, I hear what they're saying. Am I really resonating with it? And then I reached out to you personally because of the business structure and the business strata, because I resonated with a lot of things that you were saying. And you did a free inquiry call for me. You know, we got to talk and chat, and I got to feel out whether you were somebody I wanted to work with. So those pieces, since I'm a super auditory person, those pieces were really important to me. And then the other piece that I found really important is I've worked in many places. I'm a certified mediator. I've done conflict resolution training, all kinds of other things. I really wanted a standard and a truth that I believed in, and I needed to come back to a biblical truth. And that's why we hired a Christian counselor at the same time. Was Professional Christian Counseling Institute gives you that background. You can either use it or not use it, but I really like that piece and the rigors of that piece. Can you talk just a little bit more about the rigors of the training and all the things that you have to do to be qualified for even just the PCCI certification?
Yeah. So you start out with 30 hours of training. The books, I mean, it is a little bit like going back to college. It's fun because you're interested in the material, but you are taking a real serious course just for your essentials course. At the same time, you are practicing with peers against certain competencies and standards to learn as you go and practice. So it's always right foot, left foot, right? With the right foot, we learn something new. With the left foot, we implement it and try it, get feedback. And then, oh, okay, now we learn it again. And that's the way we go through the whole program. So then following that at the Professional Christian Coaching Institute, there's an ethics course, which we mandate everybody take because we want them to honor and love people well. That is central to everything coaching. And then there's those lab courses. If you remember chemistry or biology back in your student years, yeah, we want coaching lab courses. And it's a little scary. When's the last time I've been graded as an adult to coach out loud in front of my peers and the instructor? There were many times when I went through my coach training, I'm like, or I could just, die or buy an ant farm. That might be fun.
I don't think you'd like an ant farm.
But But it was well worth it. And again, those of you who might be interested in training, it is the best thing I've ever done in my life. I grew so much as an individual. If I never coached a person, it was worth it for the personal growth. And it was fun, but it is rigorous, as you said, because we do want to turn out qualified coaches.
And Jerry and I have experienced it. We have some international friends who are almost ICF certified, even though they've been doing this for 20 years. And so as we were moving into the trucking business and I was learning to ski, they were practicing coaching with us. And we had some super aha moments on how that actually works personally. That was really important in my decision to do this. So if you haven't found a coach or you want to coach, tell us what issues that coaches coach on. I mean, it's not just hurt or habits or hangups. It's a whole bunch of issues.
Almost anything in life. If there's any goal that you've ever wanted to reach and you haven't reached it yet, whether it's weight loss or a better relationship or a different job, if there's any dream that's just been stirring in your heart and in your life for years and you think, oh, I could never, oh, it's too big, and you're going to die with that dream in your heart, don't. Hire a coach. If it's forward movement oriented, there is a coach that can help you get there, and you'll be glad you did.
Absolutely. Jerry, do you have anything to add?
No, that is a great closer right there. That was beautiful.
So Kim, tell us where we can find you, where the guests can look for all of your wonderful things, and what it is you focus on now.
Well, right now, I'm almost strictly doing business coaching because I do love to help entrepreneurs launch their dream business and see it succeed, not just launch it, but see it succeed. So if you need any business coaching, I would love to point anyone to Kim Avery Coaching.
Is your schedule posted? Is your schedule posted there? Because you triggered me on that. That's exactly what we need.
Jerry's ready to sign up right there.
You can start from the beginning now, Kim.
That's
Go ahead. I apologize.
So you can find me at kimaverycoaching.com. And also, I would like to encourage any of your listeners who think, I love helping people. If I had the skills and the training to coach people and help them, that would just be a dream come true. I would encourage you to check out the Professional Christian Coaching Institute. So you can find us at professionalchristiancoaching.com. That's just professionalchristiancoaching.com. And if I can put in one more commercial, Tanya, please forgive me. If you're just kicking the tires like Tanya was 6 months ago, you can find our podcast at professionalchristiancoachingtoday.com, where Chris McCluskey and myself have weekly conversations with amazing people about all things growth and change.
And I really want to plug the podcast. Jerry and I are podcast junkies. How many do you listen to, Jerry?
I don't count that high. I've run out of fingers and toes.
We are podcast junkies. And so I was listening around, and other coaching facilities have podcasts. But if you want a Christian base and a really strong biblical background that is ecumenical, there is no, you must be Baptist, Lutheran, Southern, whatever, Catholic. It's an ecumenical, Bible-based Christian background. This one is just such a blessing. It's well produced too. And that's something that we strive for in our podcast, that you're not getting, hopefully, the sound of the cars going by and clicking and things that are hard to listen to. This one is super well produced, and you will learn a lot. The one thing that I really started with was there are 11 core competencies for the International Coaching Federation, and they will explain to you what they are, which really sets up why and how and what you look for in a coach just by knowing those competencies. And if you want to be one, then it'll tell you what you're going to have to go through to do that. So Kim, we really thank you for your time. It's just been fabulous hearing more about how you came to this, and we're looking forward to talking to you again, and maybe even Jerry will hire you.
Yeah.
There you go.
So kimavery.com, and that's your coaching site, or is that just everything?
It's actually kimaverycoaching.com, just because a realtor in Canada got the other one. So kimaverycoaching.com, and it's all things coaching. Yeah.
And then what can be found on that site, Kim?
You will find out about the business building programs I have, individual coaching, and then, of course, I have tons of free information like almost all entrepreneurs do these days, just trying to serve and pay it forward. Yeah.
Very cool.
And you also have a group. You have a group too, right?
I do have a business building group called Marketing Momentum that I open up twice a year.
Okay. So, and you're not quite open right now for that. But if they get on your site, what's your freebie? You have a great freebie too.
Yeah, 5 simple emails that will get you clients. And so if you are a business owner thinking about starting a business, an email list and serving people through email is very, very important. So 5 simple emails that will get you clients.
Beautiful.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to share is one of the reasons I resonated with you was this didn't just happen overnight for you. You had to work through, how do I learn to do business? You were a professional counselor, and so your story goes that you would walk out into the waiting room and there would be clients. That didn't happen when you went to a home-based business.
No, unfortunately, I don't know the recipe for that.
So she learned it from scratch, which means nobody is too far out from the business realm to learn this, right? Everybody can learn it. It's just if you desire to.
Yeah, I'm the poster child. God decided to tap me on the shoulder if Kim can do it, trust me, you can do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. We will leave it there. So we look forward to seeing you next time. And Kim, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I will see you on your podcast later.
All right. Thank you. God bless.
All right. Yeah, me too. Bye-bye. I know I can. I don't want to.
I'm going to put all this on there. So funny. So this is thank you for listening. This is the first time Jerry and I have done this at long distance. It was a little confusing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little awkward at times. Hopefully it turns out okay after Tanya polishes it.
It was hard to cue off of each other not being in the same room. We're going to have to figure out how to do that, right?
Or just leave it real and let them all feel awkward with us.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to be, the awkward podcast.
That's actually catchy.
The Awkward Podcast. Okay, this is Tanya and Jerry on the Awkward Podcast, and we would love for you to visit us over at thejoyousfamily.com, The Joyous Family Facebook page, and The Joyous Family Instagram page. Plus the fact that we've got a few other fun. Are you dinging in the truck?
Oh, that was awkward.
Jerry can't manage his sound. Plus the fact that I have a wonderful question for you all. So just like when a relationship goes from dealing with the hurts and the habits and the issues that you deal with in counseling, as you're moving into normalizing and stabilizing, there can be a lot of loneliness. And I'm interested in learning more about how you, our listening audience, dealt with it and coped with the different experiences. Would you mind sharing with us in an inquiry call or through an email how you dealt with those things? So there's a little button over on thejoyousfamily.com up in the top that says contact us, and it'll either let you leave me a voice message or schedule a 15-minute inquiry call. I'd love to hear about your hopes and dreams and challenges as you and your family moved into sobriety. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.